Welcome back to week 10 of Learning C with the help of examples. In this week, we are going to start with structures. So, basically, in this chapter, we are going to see a bit of a complex data types where we can define our own data types uh, with the help of use of structures. Okay. So let's start with the first task, and on the way, I will show you how the structures are defined and how to use them. Okay. So the first task that we are going to do in structures is we are going to make a clock. Okay. So we are going to make a clock which shows you time in hour, minutes, and seconds format. Okay. So basically, here you have to make a structure which has three elements: hour, minute, and seconds. Okay. So let us begin and let's try to make a working clock. Okay. So as usual, I will start with my template here. Okay. And I will just write system clock over here, right? And as such, right now I will not take any input. Okay. And now first of all, I have to as the aim says that you have to define a structure called time struct. Okay. So let's make that first. Okay. So to define a structure, uh, now before I start with definition of a structure, okay, defining a structure, you should understand why do we need structures, right? Now basically you have seen variables like integer, character, float, double, etc., right? So we have seen that in the first few tasks. Then we have also seen arrays where uh, same type of variables are stored together in an array, right? But what if you want a data type where you want to store different types of data? Okay, so in that case, you will that is the importance of structures, right? So structures are nothing but any data type in which the data types can be specified by you, right? So you define the data type over here, right? So let's begin. um, let's make the structure. To make the structure, you start with the keyword struct. Okay. Then followed by the name of the structure, so it's given time struct, then curly braces. So this is the structure of the structure. Now inside that you should put the variables that you want it to handle, right? So here you will specify the variables. So it is mentioned here, it should have three variables: hour, minute, and second, and all those three are integers, right? So let's define that. So int hour, then int minute, and then int second. So you can see the importance of structures, right? So here right now we are storing only integers, right? But you can see the power of structures, that you can store anything over here, right? So if you want, you could have one integer, one float, and one character also. Okay. So we will see that in the next task where we will create a scorecard, right? So in this task, all the three data types are same, right? So let's begin. Now once we have defined the structure, now we have to declare it inside the main function so that we can use it, right? Now to declare it, what you do is you again write struct, then the name of the struct that you have defined. Okay, so basically it is time struct, right? And then the name of the variable with which you want to access it, right? So let's call it time. Okay, and that's it. So now you have created a structure called time of type time struct. Okay, so this is very important to understand. So by this line what you have done is you have created a structure called time of type time struct. Okay, so this time will have these elements, so that is very important to understand. Okay, now uh, it is also saying that uh, it will assign would assign a value to the members and start running the clock while displaying the time in this format, right? So first of all I will have to take the input. Right now, before taking the input, I also like to show you how to initialize this the elements of the time structure, right? So to initialize it, you can simply do it the way you do it in arrays. Okay, so you just give the curly braces, and one by one you just put the values which will go to the corresponding variables, right? So let's say I give 4 comma 4 comma 4. Okay, so what happens is this 4 will be stored into hour of time, right? Then this 4 will be stored into minute, and then the next third 4 will be stored into second. Okay, so this is the way you initialize the string, initialize the structure, right? So but now we have to take the time from the user. Okay, so if you want to do that, then what you can do is you can get the time from the user. Let's do that. We will do printf. So I will say enter hour, right? And after that I will do a scanf, right? And inside that, because the value I am scanning is integer, so I will use %d comma, and I want to store this into the hour of the time. Okay, so to access our parameter or our variable from the time structure is you can do that with the help of dot operator. Okay, so you just have to start with the structure, that is time, right? Then you have to put dot, and as soon as you put dot, you can see code blocks is giving you that the time structure has three variables, right? So I can select any one of them. So here it right now I am selecting hour. Okay, so that is my first input. Similarly, I want to do two more. One is for minute, and this will be time dot minute. Then this will be seconds, and this will be second. Okay, so I have taken the input, right? So now the only step left is to print the time on the screen. Let's do that. Okay, so let's printf. So I will just write /t. Okay, and I will just write %d colon %d colon %d. Okay, so the first %d is for hour, right? So time dot hour. The second %d is for minute, right? So time dot minute. And the third one is for the second, right? So that finishes with our program, right? So it basically takes the defines a structure, takes the input, and displays the time, right? So if I run this, Okay, so I think I forgot, yeah, I forgot to add the ampersand sign. Okay, let's take the value. Let me put the current time. So 4, 6 and 34. Okay, so it is displaying me the time, right? 4, 6, 34, right? But this doesn't look very nice, right? So basically what I want is I want to see the clock running, right? Now to make it running, what I can do is I will just show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to put this inside a infinite loop. Okay, so let me just show you what I mean. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it inside a while loop, and if I just put 1, that means this loop is always going to be true, and hence this loop is never going to stop, right? And then I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut this and put it inside my this thing, while statement, right? So now what happens is it prints the time, sorry, prints the time. And then what I'm going to do is if I run this right now, just look at what happens. Okay, so I will just run this. Let's take, you can see this is what happens, right? So this is not what I want, right? So what I'm going to do is once I print this particular line once, okay, then after reaching the end, that is this particular location, I want to go back to the starting position, right? Now whenever you want to do this, you want to go back to the starting position, then what you can do is you can just simply do \r. Okay, that r is stands for carriage return. Okay, so once you do that, what happens is it will go back to the cursor starting, then again it will start with \t, and it will continue. Okay, so I can take this in a different line also, but for the time being let us run this and see what happens. Okay, you can see what happens, right? Now it is working, but it is not working the way I want, right? So it should run the clock, right? But it's not working, right? It is not running the clock. So what I have to do is after every loop finishes, I have to pause for 1 second before I go to the next loop, right? Now to do that, you need a delay function, right? Now delay function is not there in C directly, for that we have to include a library function, and that library function is windows.h. Okay, so windows.h. Once I do that, then I can come down over here and I can just write capital SLEEP, sleep, and then just specify the number of what time you want the system to sleep, right? So it's in milliseconds, so I'm saying 1000 milliseconds is equal to 1 second, right? So I'm doing this. So after 1 second, my system sorry, my loop will again continue. Okay, so let's run this now. So let's put some values. Now if you see, it works, but it is not changing the time, right? That is because after this, after I sleep, I should now increment the seconds by 1, right? So to do that, I can simply do time dot second plus plus, right? It's that simple. Now if I run it, you can see it works, right? So it works, but it will not work after 59, because after 59 it will go to 60 and then 61, 62, like that, because I have not restricted the value it can go up to, right? So after the time increase, I increment the time. I should also check if that time has it reached greater than or equal to 60. So as soon as the time increases, it reaches 60 seconds, what I should do is I should make the time back to 0, right? That is very important. I should make the time back to 0, and I should increment the minutes now. Okay, so that is very important. I should increment the minutes. Okay, so let's try to run this again. Okay, so 4, 5, and let's take it to 50 seconds. Okay, so you can see it goes up to 53, 55, 56. Perfect. Okay, so now you can see what has happened. Okay, so now what has happened is, now you may think that it is incorrect, but now it has become proper. Okay, the reason is the number of digits over here is 2. Okay, and when it becomes back, when it comes back to 0, it becomes what do you say, it is having only one digit, right? So it shifts everything down, right? So to avoid that, what you can do is, the digits are going to be 2, right? So you can just put 2 width over here, so that will help in solving that problem, right? So let's take one more try. So you can see now it works, and you can see the additional space that is over here, right? So that can also be managed. If you put a 0 over here, that will automatically put zeros in front of it. Okay, just let me just show you what I mean. So slowly we are building up the program. Okay, you can see how the time looks. Okay, let's take another example. I will show you what is the problem still left. Okay, so let's take the current hour, and let's suppose the current minute is 59. Okay, and the seconds is 55. Okay, now let's see whether it comes out to be 5 o'clock or not. Okay, you can see it becomes 60 and not 5, right? So that is very important to tackle, right? So the way we handle seconds, the same way we have to handle minutes also. Okay, so I will just copy this entire thing and paste it again, and instead of seconds, I will replace it by minutes. And when the minute is greater than equal to 60, then I have to replace minute by 0. Okay, and the hour should be incremented. Okay, perfect. Okay, so the hour has to be incremented, and you must have understood by now the same thing will apply to the hour also. So I will just copy this again and paste it for hour also, right? But in the case of hour, I have to check if it is greater than or equal to 24. Okay, so as soon as I increment the hour, and if it reaches 24, that means my hour should now be equal to 0, right? And my minute should also be equal to 0, right? So I will just copy this everything, right? So my minute should also be equal to, because once it reaches 24, the entire clock resets, right? So I will put the minute as well as the second, both of them equal to 0, right? So the entire clock resets, right? So let's run it for one last time. Okay, let's say my time is 23, right? And I am at 58, sorry, 59 and 55. Okay, so I'm almost uh, going to reset. Okay, perfect. I think everything is running perfect. So this is the proper working of a system clock. Okay, so I hope you understood what is going on, right? The only problem here is there is no stop condition, so only way to stop it is using control C, or you have to close this window. Okay, so I will just press control C and my time stops. Okay, so I hope you understood this program, and the way we have gradually made the system clock. Uh, the same way we are going to deal with the next task that is also based on structures. Uh, we will see you in the next task.